Grilling season is upon us, and this is the best time of year to stock up on meat. You knew that, though. Every summer, the grocery stores all have their big sales on meat. You can get good deals on steaks, you can get good deals on ground beef, you get good deals on anything, really, at this time of year, because cooking meat over fire is a very versatile way to cook meat. You can cook almost anything over fire. There are people out there who cook a rack of lamb, or who cook leg of lamb on open fire. Everything, it seems, goes on sale at some point during the summer. It's a great time to stock up your freezer, so make sure you have the space to take advantage of the sales that are surely coming. But today I want to go over my choices of cuts for trying to save a little bit of money on having your good outdoor cooking for summer, things that will spice things up. And remember here, I often advocate for, yes, eating 90% of your meat from ruminant animals, but there will be a few non-ruminant animals on here too, because variety is the spice of life, and at least it is for me, and it helps me stay the course. So let's go over those now. The first is going to be, of course, the classic ground beef. This is like the one time a year that stores in my area offer ground beef of various fat qualities on a super good sale. Typically, you can see around me 80% ground beef on sale for $2.99 at least a couple times during the summer. $2.99 a pound is crazy good. And if you're going to buy your meat from a grocery store, this is the time to do it. Pick up that ground beef. You can make hamburger patties with it. You can use pork rinds to make carnivore meatloaf. You can do all sorts of neat things with ground beef. It's a very versatile cut, and some people literally just eat ground beef with raw egg on it every day as their main meal, and they do just fine on a carnivore diet. So ground beef, as low as $2.99 a pound. I'll bet some of you out there will say, I've seen it for even less, for $1.99 a pound. Let me know in the comments if you have and what city you're in and what the name of the store is, because you may help out one of your neighbors with that tip. The next one we'll talk about here is the chuck roast. This is one of the most versatile cuts of steak or cuts of roast you will ever find. I personally like to take a chuck roast and throw it in my pellet grill and smoke it like a brisket. It is often called the poor man's brisket because it costs. While price per pound is typically more than a brisket, briskets are often sold in the 15 to 20 pounds of meat range, whereas a chuck roast usually caps out about 4 pounds, maybe 5, for significant cost savings. The poor man's chuck roast poor man's brisket is one of the finest cuts of meat you'll ever have. It has a uniquely, almost extra beefy flavor compared to a lot of other cuts. It tends to be a little on the tougher side compared to some other cuts, which is why it does do well on any kind of low and slow cook, but can also be cut into steaks very well. It tends to be loaded with collagen. Collagen is very good for you. This is why people drink bone broth. But maybe if you don't like bone broth, eating chuck meat once in a while is a good way to get some collagen in your system. And frankly, like I keep saying, it's cheap. It's a very cheap cut. And sometimes, if you have a Sam's Club membership, you will go into the store at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, go to the meat department, and you will see tons of them marked down, if you're lucky. That's usually one of the cuts I see the most frequently marked down, them and flank steaks, because flank steaks are hard to cook with, and most people don't know how to cook a flank steak. It's a subject for another time, though. Speaking of cooking things like a brisket, the next one is the classic beef brisket. You will see brisket everywhere this time of year, and often on sale. And when it's not on sale, if you have access to a Costco, this is the time of year where you're most likely to see USDA prime quality brisket. USDA prime, if you've watched my video on knowing the different grades of meat, USDA prime has extra fat in it. The briskets are often a little smaller, but they're very fatty. They are wonderful. And smoked brisket is one of my favorite things to have during the summer. I have a brisket in my freezer right now, and once I get some of the issues with my grill worked out, I'm going to go and my aim is to cook that for the 4th of July weekend. But brisket, comes again, 12 pounds, 15 pounds. I've seen 20-pound briskets. When you cook one of those, you have meat for weeks. You will be wanting to put them into storage bags or storage containers and putting them in your freezer. You'll have so much meat left over. It's a serious amount of bang for your buck. Please don't sleep on the brisket. It's wonderful. I don't know why some people do this with them, though, but some people cut them into steaks. The fibers in the meat are so tightly packed in there that they're very hard to chew. if you don't cook them low and slow, which breaks those fibers down. It's why brisket is typically cooked the way it is, in a crock pot or in a smoker of some kind that then takes and makes the meat more, it breaks those fibers down for you, makes it more tender. But some people have, I guess jaw muscles like Arnold's biceps, and they just eat brisket like a steak. I don't know how that works, but more power to you if you're able to do it. The next one is the chuck steak. Now you might be thinking, you just talked about a chuck roast. Why would you buy chuck steaks which are going to be slightly higher price per pound than a chuck roast? Typically because it's processed from the same thing. Well, not everybody wants a chuck roast. And chuck steaks are really good, especially chuck eye steaks. Those are like the poor man's ribeye. They're fatty and they're loaded with collagen, but they're not like super tough. They're actually like almost like a choice cut of steak that people sleep on. Because they see the word chuck there and they think, oh, that's going to be cheap. I don't want that. I want good quality meat. Why would I eat that? Don't sleep on the chuck eye steak. It's a delicious cut of steak. You won't be disappointed. You can often find them as at national stores. The only one near me that I know of that has it frequently is Walmart. They'll have it in their meat section. I have heard that Safeway and Kroger sometimes have it, but I don't know. I don't have a Safeway or a Kroger in my state anywhere, so I can't tell you for sure. I can't confirm that. So let's get to some of the non-ruminants here. The classic pork ribs. Personally, they're part of my Thanksgiving dinner, actually. I tend to throw them in my grill and have them right next to the turkey on Thanksgiving. But they are a classic summer dish. You'll often see these on sale. Sometimes you'll find them at discount grocers where they'll have perfectly fine St. Louis cut or other cuts of pork ribs that are vacuum sealed and in the freezer section, like rock hard frozen, and for really cheap, ridiculously cheap. Good time to stock up your freezer on those if you like ribs. I like ribs, although I prefer beef ribs, but they tend to be more expensive. And here we're trying to save you some money, remember. So pork ribs are delicious. A good rule of thumb when having non-ruminant meat on a carnivore diet, accompany it with some sort of ruminant animal. So have some hamburger patties or a steak with it or something. Next one is the classic pork butt. This is the cut that is typically used to make pulled pork. You'll see these on sale all the time this time of year. I have before seen them at 99 cents a pound. Be wary, though. If you see them for 99 cents a pound anywhere at a store, you are going to be getting probably 16 pounds, 20 pounds of pork butt because they're going to have 2 or 3 of these things in the same pack. So be prepared for that, but this is a great time to stock up. Go in with a friend for it. But pork butt, again, is used for making carnitas and making pulled pork. So these are going to be more seasoned meats usually. So if you go to a barbecue restaurant, they're going to be super seasoned. So you can make it yourself. Just go in knowing what you're getting. But pork butt is going to be on sale all the time. I have never seen anybody cut them into steaks. I'm sure it's been done, though. And finally, this one really is out of left field, salmon. I'm from the Pacific Northwest originally. I live in Oklahoma now, but I'm from the Portland metro area. And the one thing that Portland has going for it, Oregon in general, is access to seafood. And so when people barbecue there, yeah, they do burgers and that kind of thing. But what you'll often see is salmon thrown on the grill. And smoked salmon is wonderful stuff. We're talking hot smoked, not necessarily cold smoked where the fish isn't technically cooked, but the smoking process cures it so it's safe to eat for long periods of time. We're talking hot smoked salmon where it's actually cooked, the smoke flavor gets into the meat, and the meat is seasoned. You will often find salmon on sale, depending where you are in the country, whether it's farmed salmon or wild-caught salmon, during certain parts of the summer. So keep an eye out for it. And little bits of fish here and there are good on a carnivore diet, although obviously we generally tell you get wild-caught if you can. Farmed fish is hit or miss at best. But I'm curious, did I cover your favorite cuts here? Let me know in the comments what your favorite cuts are that are generally cheap and go on sale a lot during the summer. You notice I didn't cover ribeyes because everybody talks about ribeyes. The ribeye doesn't need any more advertisement. Ribeye is a fine cut of steak. It doesn't make my favorite cuts of meat list, though, just as a general thing, because it's too expensive, especially these days. And I need a little more variety than a lot of people do. But these are my general go-to during the summer as like just fatty party foods. Which you can eat almost any of these every day, especially like the beef options since they're just so versatile. But let me know what your favorite cuts of beef are for either summer grilling season or just in general for things that go on sale during the summer that you like to stock your freezer with. And like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help, as does sharing this on social media. Helps a lot too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for tuning in.